Hey guys, it's Nicole here from Toujours, and today's video is going to be on laminated dough. I wanted to showcase a few of my favorite products for lamination. I get asked a lot about these tools that I use, so I wanted to make a video just explaining their usefulness to see if they're the right product for you if you're in the market. Full disclosure, I'll be mostly talking about two Broad & Taylor products. This video is not promoted by them, it's not sponsored by them. I just get so many questions about my dough sheeter and my folding proofer that I wanted to make a video, and during that video be able to describe the tools for you a little bit better. I will post an affiliate link in the description of the video where I get a small kickback if you do purchase any Broad & Taylor products, but it is at no extra cost to you. I really love Broad & Taylor as a company in general because I really feel like it marries my passion of the kitchen and trying to make it less intimidating, because they have products that make things easier to be able to do in your home. So that just kind of brings it all together with home baking made easy from scratch without being too intimidating. So let's get into laminated dough. We're gonna be making some bicolored croissants today. And with their sheeter, it's just made so much easier. We're not gonna have to put as much arm work in this. The lamination is done way faster than when by hand, and then so is the proofing. The proofing is cut in half. With my ambient temperature, which is pretty cold here in Alaska, it might not be as much of a change for you, but the proofer really helps speed that process up too. So let's make some laminated dough and check out these products. I actually have a class coming up where we can make bicolored croissants together via Zoom. I will put the link in the description of this video as well. And you can join me and a couple other bakers as we bake live together creating these croissants. But for now, let's do the quick version. We're gonna be mixing our dough. I do this the night before I wanna start my lamination. After you mix your dough, take off a portion of your croissant dough, set it aside, and then we're gonna color this with cocoa powder. I put 20 grams of cocoa powder and about 24 grams of water into my mixing bowl and mix that in really well. And you're gonna wanna finish this off by hand to really disperse that cocoa powder throughout your dough. Once you have your doughs mixed, saran wrap those really well or cover them up and put them in your refrigerator overnight. The night before, I always like to make my butter book as well, just so it's ready. For your butter book, just make sure you're using European or high fat content butter. If you use a lower fat content butter, like most of our American butters, unfortunately, our butter is just not as pliable and it breaks really easily, and you can work it into the dough more, so it's not going to give you those layers that you want. It's gonna be more of just a buttery, dense dough instead of a croissant. I love to use unsalted Kerrygold butter because it has a high fat content and it's a great price point. You can see my butter is pliable, and I am just spreading my butter and pushing it with a rolling pin to the edges of my parchment rectangle that I made. Once you've made your butter book, we can put that in the refrigerator overnight as well. About 30 minutes before you're ready to laminate, make sure you take that butter book out so it gets to that pliable consistency again. We don't want our butter too cold because then it's gonna break and it's gonna cause a lot of butter leakage and lamination issues. You don't want the butter too warm either because it will meld into your dough and you'll get a very dense final product as well. If you want the full tutorial on croissants, go check out my Mastering Croissants video for the recipe and just a super in-depth tutorial. We're gonna be working through this quickly just to showcase some ways to quicken the process. Once you have your butter pliable, make sure you get your dough about twice as big as your butter book so you can enclose your butter book completely. Here's where we get to see the magic of the sheeter. You wanna make sure your seam is vertical, and then you're gonna crank that hand crank. Make sure you're at the very highest point for your roller so that you have as much room for your dough to pass through as possible. And then after you've rolled your dough through, that size, just keep clicking down one until you've reached the length of your dough that you want. I'll usually go down to like the 5 or one below it before I do my folds. Here I did a double fold and then one single fold. In 20 minutes, I've done all the lamination now, and I'm setting my dough in the freezer for about 40 minutes just to chill it quickly to retard that yeast, and then I pop it back in the fridge and let it rest for about 2 hours. Once our dough has rested, it's not going to retract on us as easily. I'm going to do our final rollout. This is where our second dough comes into play. So I passed my dough through the sheeter a few times to make it about a piece of paper, so maybe 8 by 11 inches. And then I'm gonna take my cocoa dough and pass it through to get to about the same. Once our cocoa dough is about the same size as our croissant dough, I'm going to take a pastry brush with just some water and lightly brush the top of the dough to adhere our cocoa dough to the top. Then we're going to pass through the sheeter again until we're at 0, all the way down. This is another one of my favorite features of the dough sheeter here. So not only was I able to pass through and avoid all that arm workout, and my dough didn't retract as much because I wasn't overworking my dough, but also this board that we've been rolling out on flips over and it's a cutting board. So I can lay my dough out, take my template, and cut out all my croissants. Once you've cut out all your croissants, you roll them up and put them on sheet trays, getting ready to proof them and bake. Typically, when I'm hand rolling, I prefer to do 3 single rolls because once you do a double fold, like I did that first fold, it's so difficult to roll it out again. It's just not worth the extra workout for me. So I would always do 3 single folds. But with the dough sheeter, the double fold made easy. It has no extra strength needed. I just crank it the same speed and we are good to go. So I really enjoyed doing 1 double fold, 1 single fold, and then you've only done 2 turns, but it's equivalent to the same amount of lamination. To put it into hours saved, I feel like this dough sheeter saves me about 3 hours of work. Because I'm going in and out of my refrigerator when I'm hand rolling due to the retraction of my dough and needing to rest it and get cold again, because you have to touch it and feel it and make sure everything is evenly getting rolled out, it takes a long process. The dough sheeter eliminates all of that. So if you make laminated dough a lot, this could definitely save you a good amount of time. I know when I sold my croissants at the farmers markets, it would have been very nice to have this sheeter. I did it all by hand though. So it's not to say that you need a sheeter, not at all. This is just to save time, or potentially if you have back issues or any type of injury where you can't roll out physically anymore, this sheeter is awesome. It's totally worth it. So I have the 15.5 inch model and it comes in this briefcase-like size, very convenient because it fits wonderfully in my pantry. And then the flat board is pretty easy to find a place on your shelving as well. Here's me assembling the product. It's a very easy, intuitive design. So it's fast to put together, fast to take apart, which I love. So that's the sheeter in a nutshell. I've heard the 12-inch compact version is awesome too. I don't have it myself, so I don't know how it works, but I've seen lots of videos of other people using it and they pass their laminated dough through very nicely. Now let's move on to that proofer. This folding proofer helps me regulate the environmental temperature that my dough proofs at, which is awesome because my room temp is always about 67 Fahrenheit, which isn't too cold, but for dough and yeast, it takes a really long time. I also love to proof my croissants from frozen, so I'm doing it in the morning, which takes hours, and then I wake up at 3 a.m. to start them proofing so they're ready in time for breakfast, which isn't as convenient as you'd wish. So with my proofer, I put them on quarter sheet trays and you can layer it up with that folding rack that I have in there. And that helps proof them in half of the time. Instead of 4 hours, I'm proofing for 2 hours at 76 Fahrenheit. I've played around with different temperatures. I've proofed at 78 too. In school, we were taught to proof at 82 Fahrenheit. I really like 76 just because it doesn't get my butter too soft when I'm about to bake. I like to keep it around 76 to 78, and you are able to figure that out at your own environment too, and you can raise your temperature up or down however you'd like. I've seen people slow cook in it because it goes all the way to 195 Fahrenheit. You can also make yogurt in it. There's so much you can do with this proofer. It's a very versatile tool, and you can get really creative with how you use it. Another great feature is that it folds up and it's easy to store. I've got this little case for it, and it easily gets stored and put away, stays clean in my pantry. Once your croissants are proofed, we can bake them right off. And for baking with these bicolored croissants, you want to bake a little bit lower than typically so that your color doesn't brown too much or burn. Especially with this cocoa powder, it's easy to burn. So I bake at 375 for about 25 to 30 minutes depending on your oven. And make sure that you have some simple syrup made. So just take equal parts sugar and water, boil it for about a minute till its sugar's all dissolved. Have that ready and warm to brush onto your croissant when they come out of the oven. Because usually when you do a bicolored croissant, it's showcasing what kind of flavor it is. You could have rolled up chocolate in this if you wanted to do just a chocolate croissant this way. Here I filled mine with Nutella to have a delicious Nutella filling in my bicolored croissant. And that's that. Enjoy while they're still warm if you can. So all in all, I saved about 3 to 4 hours with laminating because of that sheeter, and then 2 more hours with proofing because it's cold here. And so I saved about 6 hours of time. Pretty remarkable, and they're really fun too because you just feel professional with quality products. Makes my home baking feel like I'm just a rock star. I hope all of these tips helped, and if you're in the market for some new fun tools, go check out Broad & Taylor. Their products are awesome, very professional for the home baker. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, and make sure you check out more videos on baking. See you guys next week.